Thank you very much, Peter, for the introduction and, of course, for the opportunity to moderate this discussion. As you highlighted, the automotive sector has a particular importance for Europe, as for many other countries and regions, and has been strongly impacted by the COVID crisis. We know that the COVID crisis has highlighted fragilities, vulnerabilities in the supply chain. It has also come at a time when the margins for some of the players in the industries were particularly low, and the adaptation, the changes that have come about have also implied further slimmer margins. But as you highlighted, the crisis has arrived, has impacted an industry that was already undergoing important major transformations. An industry that had to deal with stagnating demand in many world regions over the past years, production shifting to emerging regions of the world, like, of course, Asia, China in particular, where demand, contrary to other areas, has been growing quite fast over the past years. But also an overall world environment presenting new challenges, like trade tensions at the global level. In Europe, the disruptions brought about by the Brexit, as well as rapid technological change, a shift in demand, a strong push also from the policy perspective for greener transport, so hybrid electric cars, and therefore a technological transformation, a technological trajectory, which may give advantage to some players, some established players, or displace some of the key players or suppliers in the overall industries, with competencies becoming obsolete or new players driving technological change. And I think a very important aspect of all these is related to how the geography of the automotive value chains will be impacted by all this. So by the ongoing trends, the long-term trends, as well as the new disruptions brought about by the COVID crisis. And we have as a first panel, I think, a very rich combination, an interesting combination, the voice and analysis from the industry with Barbara Richter, the European Commission with Mehdi, Hocine, as well as rich research and academia point of view from David Bailey. I would like thus to start our discussion from Barbara. I know there was some connection problem. Okay, so if she's not back yet, maybe we can then rather start from Mehdi. And I would like Mehdi, you to comment on these profound changes, long-term changes that were already taking place in the industry, and how has COVID impacted them? Can we say that COVID simply accelerated changes that were ongoing, or do you see some new trajectories emerging?
Thank you very much, and I will try to be brief. Indeed, the crisis we are experiencing right now is of a completely, it's something that the industry never experienced so far. And just to make a small comparison with the last big crisis the industry had in 2008, 2009, if you look at the figures in terms of reduction of production, I think depending on the country, or it was never more than 10%. And some manufacturer had losses, but for example, the big manufacturer in Germany, they continued to generate profit during the crisis. And here we are in a completely different situation, because production was stopped and the market is still, you are in a roller coaster. You don't know what, I think there was never so much uncertainty. There was never so much uncertainty. And I agree, I think it will just accelerate what was already ongoing. And it's what we can expect indeed is that just looking at the figure, I think we are going to have, there was already uncertainty for the consumer on whether he could continue to drive a car with an internal combustion engine. And because of all the bans at city level, and I don't even want to enter whether these bans are legal or not, but these bans just exist. So the consumer was already confused with all this technology around, because when you buy a car, it's for a certain period of time, but here on top, you have the uncertainty that you are not even sure to have your job in 3 or 6 months. So it adds to the uncertainty, and what we see is a surge from electrified vehicle, plug-in and battery electric vehicle. And right now, we are about, at EU level, about 10% of market penetration. Last year, plug-in hybrid and battery electric vehicle were about 4%. Of course, this is partly due to the fact that the market is shrinking. For the first 6 months, we are something around, depending on the country, but it's around -20 and -30% overall, which is huge. And it's true that this created a lot of uncertainty, but it also accelerated the transition. So that's, let's say, the positive side. But of course, on the industrial, from an industrial point of view, it's very complicated because it's more difficult to adapt, the factories, the plant, to this revolution. And especially, you have certain region in Europe where you have a lot of cluster for the production, for example, of some components used in diesel engine. And when you see that the share of diesel has shrunk from more than 60 to 70% in certain countries to less than 30, it was already a shock. So it just shows that things are going incredibly fast. So a lot of uncertainty, and even for the future of vehicle, I think it would be quite presumptuous to say that which solution will really be the one. Are we going to have the plug-in hybrid as a transition, or are consumers going to jump directly to the battery electric vehicle? I think it's difficult to make a bet, taking into account that a battery electric vehicle, if you look now at the market, it's almost the same price if you take more or less the same type of category of a plug-in hybrid vehicle. So they are not cheap, because plug-in hybrid has both a battery and a conventional engine. So it costs also a lot. So a lot of uncertainty, which is difficult to translate for the car manufacturer and also the producer of parts. And so that's for the big change, big uncertainty. What we can see, let's say, in terms of opportunity. So we see that obviously we will need to have different. We will need to have different skills. We will need to have different sourcing. I don't think that we are going to change completely the global value chains, but for sure, especially with electrification, since the engine will no longer be the central strategic element in a car, it's going to be battery. Battery will have to play a big role. And we see now that even the Asian manufacturers start from China, Korea, start to make huge investment in Europe. I think it's also a good sign that we will continue, at least as far the EU is concerned, to have automotive industry, because you need to have the battery production close to the facilities. So I think for the region, I think it's a big issue. And with this battery, you will have also a completely new environment with regards to the material that you will have to source sometimes, locally, sometimes from abroad, like cobalt or lithium sometimes, and also the recycling. So for sure, the value chain will be different, because also in the context of the circular economy, we will have to adapt to adapt to this new reality. And it's possible that part of what was actually imported in the past, like we used to import a lot of battery, at least in the EU, will be made in Europe. But I think the rest of the component, I don't think that the rest will be completely changed. So I mentioned skills, that is going to be a big issue, especially for region. And this new type of, as I mentioned, the battery industry, which is going to be a core element, and there should be a strong focus on that. Finally, also with regards to everything that is around, so the infrastructure, I think it's also important. Having the correct infrastructure will be an issue, and it will be an issue both for the electrified vehicle, because if you want to get rid of range anxiety, you need to have the charging infrastructure. And we will also need to have refueling industry for hydrogen, and also, but I think it will be on a longer term, everything that will be needed for connected and automated driving. But I think it's a bit longer term, because for the time being, the technology is not yet mature to be used completely in the city. I think it's almost mature for the highway, but not yet in the city. Well, I think I will stop here.